Welcome back to the Artefactors Union. I'm your host and foreman, Douglas Scoundrels. Today we are assembling more prizes, as we are up to prizes and alts part 8, and we have we have all of the most recent alts from the Easter sale. So we've got the Mr. Invisible, which is an alternative Jin Baccara. We have the 8th Mate, which is an alternative First Mate. We have Maid and Mist, which is an alternative Shojo. And then the Tricornus, which is an alternative Sao. And just to round it out, so we have 6. We have an alt Titania and the alt Bayou Gremlin. So we will go ahead and just do them in that order, sure. So Mr. Invisible, 8th Mate, Maid and Mist, Tricornus, Titania, and the Bayou Gremlin. Let's look at Mr. Invisible. Alright, sadly we do not have instructions as of the recording of this, so I've got nothing to show you, but luckily, at least for Mr. Invisible, not a ton of bits, and I can tell where everything goes. So we'll grab E4, the body, and then we'll do E3, the left leg, and E2, the right leg, and then we will do E5, which is the left hand, which is sort of resting right here, and then we will finish with E1, the right hand, which should be attaching to his head, as well as the bandage on E5. So let's grab E4 first. Alright, here's E4. E3 is going to glue right down this way, including this connection point. That looks pretty good. Next, we'll do E2, which is our right leg, and it will glue right in there. There is that right leg. Did not realize he was stepping forward so much till just now. The artwork doesn't really give you that impression. But I'll also explain why his back left foot is lifted like that is. Okay, next is going to be E5, our bandage and hand, specifically the left hand. Here is our hand, and that will be connecting right down there. Also, there is a very obvious attachment point on the bandage that goes right here, specifically right there. You see the pill. I take that back. We're actually going to attach E1 first, because I think it being attached and in place is going to be easier to put E5 in than if we did E5 and then E1. So let's go and do E1. We'll attach it onto the wrist here, but also attach to the face up here. Oh, there we are. Okay, now E5 will attach down here at the wrist of the hand. Will also attach to the thigh of the right leg. You can see that pill shape here. And the bandage will go up and inside of the hand, sort of underneath this bandage. Okay, I got that all in there, and it's looking pretty decent, but I wanted to say that the order operations I recommend at this point is you actually take the body and you start with the bandage up at the head, E1, and then you add the right leg. You could probably put on the left leg before that, that's fine. But you want to do the head bandage and then the right leg, because you want it to be soft when you put on the last bandage, E5, so it can be adjusted to sort of fit the correct angle. Because if it's sticking out too far, then getting it to attach on this connection point right here will either knock this hand out of place or knock this hand out of place. So that is my recommended order for things. But he is done, and he looks pretty good. Let's put him on a base. Mr. Invisible is done. This is a surprisingly difficult mini to build. Hardest part was really the right leg causing issues for the rest of the build. So that's why I think that order is important, that the right leg needs to be soft and not set when you add the bandages, just to get it to all align correctly. So that's my rewarning for you. But only a few bits, so once you get past that, it should be good. Let's move on. Alright, here's our 8th mate. Got a lot of bits. I'm not 100% certain where they're all going to go. It looks like none of the new alts have instructions when I'm recording this, so I will still figure it out. But just letting you know, you're not going to see it for this one or the next two either. So I know we can grab this guy, which is kind of our big base, and we will probably attach the upper shoulders of the 8th mate as well as his head to the top. And then we can attach the treasure chest to the front of it. And I'm honestly not sure where this is supposed to go, but it's probably some part of the bottom. We'll figure out when we get there. And we'll sort of finish up with this treasure chest, and the idea being that we will do all of the tentacles last once everything else over here is done. So let's grab B10 first, followed by B9 and B8. Alright, we got B10, let's put B9 right on top. Alright, fits over that entire space. Now let's add B8, the head, right there. Looking good. Okay, next we'll grab B2, add that to his front. B3, add that to the top of B2. And then B7 here is actually going to go on his back side underneath him. As word of advice for all you listeners, don't stab yourself with an X-Acto knife. Alright, there is B2 and the bottom. Now B3, oops, right there. Okay, mostly done with the main body. Now let's do B7, which is just going to go right along here. There we go. And we can see that there's this nice big gap here. So we'll go ahead and get started on the tentacles with B1, which is going to fit in here. Actually, change of plans. We are going to take that B1 and we're going to actually add B6 to it first. This is B6, and it has this nice lovely hole that attaches to this nice lovely peg. So it'll go in something like that. We'll do that first. Now that that is done, now we can shove it into the bottom of our first 8th mate. Sweet. Alright, everything is nice and snug. Only have 2 bits left. Let's do B5, which is going to go right in there. There we are. And lastly, B4, which will attach right there. And there is B4. He's all done. Put him on a base. The 8th mate is done. A surprisingly simple model. I was expecting a lot more difficulty since it's a bunch of bits, but the hardest part really is just knowing where things go. And once instructions come out, it should be relatively simple for most folks. No complaints here. And it looks very, very pretty. Okay. Let's move on. Alright. Hardest mini, I'm guessing, out of this entire set. Made in the Mist. Let's get to our first up. Let's go ahead and build the base first, the easy part. So we'll take D3, add D1 to it, and D2. And then after that, we've got a lot of tiny things. One sec. All right, thank you to my friends at Weird. We're gonna grab the body, C9, and then we will basically build all the parts of the body. So we'll do the left arm, C3, the right arm and snake parts, C4, and the leg, C7. Once we have all that done, we can go ahead and combine the 2 parts of the hair, C1, C11, and then stack that on top of her head. And then we'll start doing snake parts. We'll start with C2, which is, I believe, the head of the snake. Yep. Followed by C5, this guy, then C6, and lastly C8, all just wrapping around her body. And once we're all done with that, we can add C10, which is a magical effect / hair, and then we'll be done with her and we can attach her to the base. So let's get started with the base. These 3 bits first. Alright, here's D3. Let's add D1 right along here. Now those are combined. Let's do D3 right there. Alright, done with the easy part. let's get started on the body now. Let's first cut out C9 and then C3, the left arm. Oh, actually, we're not going to do that. I've got a new method that I'll share with you later. Let's go and do the hair first. So let's grab C1, combine it with C11, and then attach it to the head. Alright, a mistake I made on C11 here is that there is a nub here that is actually a connection tooth, and I kind of shaved it off. So don't do that. There's still enough there, and I don't think it's going to ruin the model, but just keep that in mind. So I guess we have C11, add C1. There it is. Now plop this on the back of her head. And there we go. Hair is on. Alright, let's actually start with the right arm first, which, let me check my sprue, is going to be C4, which will attach in the shoulder here, as well as this nice bubble connection point. Alright, kind of hard to see the connection point. Oh, that's a better view. It fits in there pretty snugly, so that's good. Now we can go ahead and add the left arm. And then immediately after that, we're going to connect it to the right arm with the snake head. So let's add that first, right in there. And there is our left arm. There is a notch sort of in our armpit, which is the best way to get it in accurately. I don't think you can see it, but it's there, trust me. So now that this is still curing, let's grab C2, the head of the snake, which will connect right here on the right arm. And then you can sort of see the connection point on the left arm, where the head of the snake will also attach. Okay, took a good amount of fiddling with tweezers. Thinking back on it, it actually might be wiser to connect the snake head with the left arm first. This seems like a fairly solid connection, and then attach it to the right arm and the shoulder socket. But that's just a guess. I won't know until I try to build this again. All right, next, let's go ahead and add her right leg, which will be C7. All right, the leg is in place. Next, we're going to go ahead and do C5, which is the snake, and we'll attach here and go across the hip and butt right there. And kind of hard to see, but there is a slight notch right here, and that is the part that connects to the snake body that's attached to the right arm. Okay. Just a little bit of nudging with tweezers, and should be good with that. Our next snake bit is going to be C6, which will attach here and I believe go over the thigh. Now, as far as what bit attaches to the existing snake, you're looking for the connection point with the smooth side. This one over here, as you can see, has sort of a peg in the center of it, which we will use later. So this is what we're attaching to the existing snake. Okay. And yep, it has just a very shallow connection point on the outer thigh. We've only got 2 bits left. Now let's do C8, which will connect here, go around the back of the knee, and then it will connect to the bottom of the tail right here. Okay, lots of delicate poking and prodding, but the snake is fully wrapped around her now, and we just have one last bit, C10, which will attach to the back of the hair right here, as well as the side of the knee down here. So there's our hair bit, but I am now realizing that maybe the snake doesn't actually attach to the thigh because it pulled itself off when I was adding this bit, and there's no like bad break in the snake, so I think I was just wrong and attached it where I shouldn't have. So yeah, keep that in mind. But now let's attach to her basing thing. Okay, there is almost no indication of where her foot is supposed to go on this bit, so I just sort of put it on where it seemed the most secure, and this is how she ended up being angled. I think it looks good, but I could be wrong. I apologize if I am wrong. But she's on there solidly enough. Let's put her on a base. The Maid in the Mist is done. Good lord. So this is early 2nd edition flashbacks to teeny tiny bits and a bunch of them. The hardest part, kind of the whole model. I think really figuring out the snake and getting it to wrap around the body without knocking anything out of place is probably the most difficult part. But the whole thing is pretty difficult build. Probably top 10 in my opinion as far as difficulty. But it's an alt at least, so you don't have to use it. You can go ahead and use Shojo, who's actually wearing clothes. Snakes isn't clothes, folks. No matter what my Discord says. Anyways. Yeah. That in the order. Order is pretty darn important, otherwise you're gonna mess everything up, I think. Okay. Okay, I'm done. Let's move on. Behold, the Tricornus! Reminder that the Unicorn Vomit and Pixie Farts is the best Nightmare box. I will not be hearing any dissent. Anyways, let's assemble this. We've got a Unicorn Cerberus on a cloud. Oh, nice. We'll start with assembling the two halves of the cloud base thingy, which is F3. I can't see numbers for a second. And F2. And then we can go ahead and assemble probably the entire body. There's a central piece here, which is F4. And then we can grab F7, add the other half of it, F10 together, and then attach that to F4. We can do F6 and also attach that to F4. And I think I think this thing possibly goes on the back of that. We'll see. And then we can add the wings, F1, and finish with the legs / butt, F8 and F5. And once all those are together, we can just attach them to the cloud bit. But we'll see if that's an accurate description of our order or not. I'm still going to start with the cloud bases F3 and F4. F3 and F2. Let's begin. Got an F3, add F2 on top. All right, we've got our base. Seam looks pretty good. Now, just throw that away. It can take it. Let's grab F4 next. There we go. Now let's grab F7 and we're going to add it right in here. You are going to have this big open space on the back, but you can see the seam inside there, and it looks good on the front. Just don't put too much pressure on it or you'll probably squish it out of place. Let's go ahead and grab the side of the head here, which is F10. Add that now. All right. Got a head. Now let's do the last of our horsey boys, which is going to be F6. And it'll fit right along here. All right, there's our seam, and on the inside. Okay, to finish this guy off, we need the arm. It's ripped off. I'm just gonna go right here in its mouth. That is F9. The hand will be pointing this way towards the back of the mini. All right, there it is attached. You really want to check the seam right along here to make sure that the arm and jaw are aligned with the head correctly. All right, now let's add the wings that go right across here. Those are going to be F1. There are the wings. Next, the right leg and butt, which will go around there, which will be F5. All right, half the booty done. Now F8 is our last bit. Going to fit right in here. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously. There will be a big hole here, but that's going to be covered up by the cloud. F8. Took a weird amount of squishing to get that crack down the middle to align correctly. And yes, I know that's a joke. But, yep, the body's done, so now we can finally plop it on the cloud base. Okay, I realized that it might be a little weird to get them on the base without me showing you exactly how it works. So here's our Tricornus. Here is the base. You see these two pill-shaped connection points? They're going to go right in there. So we can just pop them into place. Okay. Get them on a base. Tricornus is done. Really pretty model. I absolutely love the Unicorn Vom and Pixie Farts Nightmare box, and I'm glad we get a callback to that with our version of the Sow. Really, really simple and very pretty. Hardest part, Getting the victim's arm in the mouth of the deer on the horse's left is probably the hardest part. And that's kind of me just groping for something to say is the hardest part. Yeah, I'm just going to stare at it for a little bit, and then we'll move on to non-new alts. I really like the clear base. Okay, on to a not new alt, fairly old one. Is an alt Titania. It's even labeled as Red Joker, because I think her first artwork was the Red Joker of a deck, but I think this one will be relatively simple. We'll grab the body, and we'll go ahead and do both legs, the right and the left leg. Then we'll figure out where this goes. I'm pretty sure it's part of her skirt somewhere. Then we can go ahead and do the right and left hand, her hair, and finish off with the wings. So let's grab these 3 bits first. Hey, if I my tweezers again. Alright, got the body. Right leg is going to be the more outstretched one, the long one. The not bent one. It's going to go right in there. Okay, there's the leg. Now we'll just do the left leg, the other one in this hole. Both legs are in. Now our extra bit of cloth, I can now see, fits right here. You can see a connection point, and actually I believe this entire curve is a part of it as well. Looking at our sprue, you can see a similar shaped connection point. Cool. That's what it looks like. Now, as far as the arms go, you can always check your thumbs, but we'll do the right arm first, and the right arm is the one that has some sleeve on it. The left arm has no sleeve. There is our right arm. Now let's do the left, the one without a sleeve. Okay, that's it. Now let's go ahead and do her best symbol, that she is an ancient being from an era long past. Let's add her bob cut. Okay, took a little bit of effort to pop in, but it went in pretty easy regardless. Let's do our last bits. Right wing, then left wing. Right wing going in here. Now let's look at our sprue. This is the right wing, so this one would be the left. Okay, so you just need to rotate it, and eventually the seam will disappear, and that way you know it's the right angle. Let's do the left wing. There's the left wing, and I keep nudging the right arm out of place, but let's talk about the flight base again. Okay, usual spiel about flight bases is that, I mean, most people don't like them, but the quickest way to get it to work better is you need to shave this tip to better fit wherever you're wanting to mount the flight base. Normally it can be on the back side of the model, but in this case, because of her skirt, you've got to go in there. So I'm actually going to cut it that way just a bit, and then hopefully mount it on the back of the skirt. But I'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll see her final form. Alt Titania is done. Not a lot of bits, not too difficult. Hardest part was the arms, getting them in to sit flush was somewhat difficult just because they're small bits, but that's really it. Pretty model, easy to build, all done. Let's move on. Alright, let's end with something relatively simple, I think. Just a few tiny bits. This is the Alt Bayou Gremlin. For assembly, we will grab the body. Let's focus camera. Grab the body, then we'll do the right arm and add the gun to both arms. And then we will combine the 2 halves of the reeds on the hat, put that on the hat, attach the head to the hat, and then finally attach the entire thing to the body and call them good. So let's start with this bit and this bit. Now here's a body. Now let's just add the right arm. It doesn't matter how accurate it is because we'll have to realign it with the gun if it's unaligned. So just put that in the shoulder socket. There we go. It actually fits in there pretty solidly. Alright, now let's do the gun, which will attach to the wrist stump here, the elbow stump here, but also has a big ol' connection tooth that glues into the chest, which will make it a lot easier for us to figure out. That bit is right there. Okay, that ended up taking a lot of poking and prodding to get those seams looking good. Bit of advice, you want to swing the bottom outwards as much as possible, or specifically push in on the top as much as possible. It should make them align better. Okay, let's set the body down. Let us next combine the two halves of the reeds on the hat. Okay, first half with the any connection point. Now both halves. Here's our bottom. We can see that there is a unique shape to it, with the longest flat side being here. We can then just match it up to the top of the hat with the long flat side right there. There we be. Cool. Now let's just add our head to the bottom of the hat. Okay, and the face is facing the brim of the hat with the 3 notches. All right, let's add this to our body now. And there is our little guy all done. Let's put him on the base. The alt Bayou Gremlin is done. Hardest part for this one was the gun. Surprisingly enough, I thought it would be the arm, but getting the gun to align with the wrists and the connection point on the chest was relatively difficult. Everything else pretty simple outside of them just being small pieces. And that's it. I'm not going to do a full review since these guys aren't in a box. They're separate, so I'm just going to send you off. I have been your foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, helping you build a better Malifaux. Have a good night.